Thank you for joining us again. Day 3, ideally. Yeah. Welcome, our close friend, close friend of the people, the U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka, Her Excellency Julie Chung. Ambassador Julie Chung has been the U.S. Ambassador to Sri Lanka since February 2022, a career member of the Senior Foreign Service with the rank of Minister Counselor. Ambassador Chung has previously held senior positions throughout the Indo-Pacific and Western Hemisphere. She received a BA in Political Science from University of California, San Diego, and an MA in International Affairs from Columbia University, and joined the Foreign Service in 1996. Ambassador Chung has been the recipient of numerous awards, including the Presidential Rank Award and the Secretary Distinguished Honor Award. She speaks Korean, Japanese, Spanish, and I hope that she can speak Sinhala and Tamil very well now. Great honor to have you, Ambassador. Thank you so much for joining us, our great friend, Her Excellency Julie Chung.
Good morning, everybody. I heard you had quite a boat cruise last night, and hopefully everyone's recovered from that. But really great to be here at this big, bold, brave Harvard alumni event. Thank you so much, Candyban Balendra, my good friend Candy. I was telling him if there were 1,000 Candys in this country, how much progress, how much successes we can see more of. So a hand to Candy and the entire executive committee. And I understand this is the first regional Asia-Pacific event ever, and it happens to be in Sri Lanka. So I'm really proud that it's being held here. And it's great to see such a diverse audience. I met some of you the other night, the first night at the welcome reception from all across the region to be here in the heart of the Indo-Pacific. It's what I call Sri Lanka, the heart of the Indo-Pacific. I hope you've had a useful week networking, enjoying some of the sights of Colombo. And I know you've heard from a range of government leaders, industry leaders, of everything from AI, renewable energy, digital transformation, climate change. And hopefully you'll really take all these ideas and turn them into concrete actions, even beyond after the conference ends. Now, as Harvard alumni, you are part of a very special group who had the opportunity to study at one of the best institutions of higher education in the United States and the world. I told some of you at the happy hour the other day, I'm a little jealous. I'm not part of the Harvard Club. I went to Columbia, and I had a great time in Columbia, but you were part of this great networking group. And I often meet students from South Asia who have studied more often in the UK or Australia because they say, oh, America is so far away. But sometimes you have to go far to get the best experiences and the best opportunities. So I hope that we will see more students from Asia going to work and travel in the United States. We have built a foundation of academic exchanges between our two countries for decades, especially with our prestigious Fulbright program, which is now over 70 years old here in Sri Lanka. And we have operated so many decades that we've had over 2,000 participants going in both directions during that period. So how will you go big, be bold, and be brave? You've seen that sign all week, staring at you in red, right in front on the stage. And I said, as to start off with, you're in the right place. You're here in the Indo-Pacific, in Sri Lanka, a dynamic hub of opportunities and promise, offering unparalleled potential for economic growth, innovation, cultural exchange, and strategic partnership that can shape a brighter future for generations to come. And you know this if you're already living and working in the Asia Pacific, right? From Tokyo to Jakarta to Delhi to Hong Kong. I've spent the majority of my diplomatic career in the Indo-Pacific. Before we even started calling it the Indo-Pacific, we called it the East Asia Pacific Bureau before. And even in Honolulu, where our military strategic quarters are based, we used to call that PACOM, the Pacific Command. and now it's called the Indo-PACOM. Now, I've served in China, Japan, worked on North Korea, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia, and now here in Sri Lanka. Growing up as a Korean American immigrant, my initial interest was actually in East Asia because I wanted to explore how the East Asian miracle of nations rising from poverty to become major global partners happened. I studied abroad in Tokyo during my sophomore year in college. My first tour was in Guangzhou, China. And then as I expanded my postings throughout my career to Southeast Asia, I realized what tremendous potential the Southeast Asian countries have to offer in the region and beyond. The nations making up ASEAN are collectively the third largest economy in the Indo-Pacific and the fifth largest economy in the world. Now, when I served in Hanoi, Vietnam, it was the time of the 10th anniversary of normalization of relations. And it was quite unbelievable at that time to think that a country that the United States had been at war with at one point had grown and developed to become a strong security and economic partner now. So here in Sri Lanka, a democratic island of 22 million people, every day I see extraordinary potential for ideas, innovation, and growth. If the country can get its governance on track, both economic governance as well as political governance. So I say it's at a crossroads right now. The decisions and policies that are being made will determine the trajectory of its future. I don't know if you remember that movie, Sliding Doors, with Gwyneth Paltrow. It's like sliding doors. One slide of fate can cause a ripple effect to change an individual or a country's entire future. For example, did you know that Sri Lanka was originally invited to join ASEAN as a founding member in 1967? But it declined for some reason or another. Now imagine if Sri Lanka had been a part of ASEAN. And decades later, the government here is now seeking to enter RCEP, the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, that will link even greater trade and investment opportunities between Sri Lanka and Southeast Asia. Now imagine also if Sri Lanka had not declined $500 million in grants, not loans, from the US Millennium Challenge Corporation in 2020 that would have helped to alleviate poverty and boost growth. So these decisions, let's think about how today as a new sliding doors moment and consider the opportunities now in Sri Lanka and the region. Now, Sri Lanka is the current chair of IORA, the Indian Ocean Rim Association, that also includes dialogue partners from Europe and East Asia. Now, as a sitting chair, Sri Lanka is in the position to drive interregional cooperation on economic development and political dialogue for the next 2 years. So naturally, Sri Lanka's focus has been on its immediate environs, right? Countries in the Indian Ocean. We hear the government and its leadership talk a lot about that, the importance of the Indian Ocean. But my challenge is, why limit yourself there? If it takes steps to expand connections within and beyond the Indian Ocean region, how much more can be done? That means to Southeast Asia, to Northeast Asia, where some of you are based right now. It can really broaden its strategic interests across both the Indian and Pacific Oceans. Now, the Colombo Plan, if you haven't heard of that, was founded and headquartered here in Colombo, is a decades-old development platform with member states from across East Asia, South Asia, the Middle East, the United States, and even Chile. So as you're growing your businesses, whether you're in Hong Kong or Seoul or Bangkok, look at what connections you can expand with Sri Lanka and the greater Indo-Pacific. Those choices and that groundwork now could bring such a brighter future for the region. Now, not too long ago, the world watched as Sri Lanka captured global headlines, but for all the wrong reasons, right? Massive protests, economic collapse, an IMF bailout. And to the great credit of the current leadership, the country is now undergoing debt restructuring and structural reforms and has undertaken very difficult measures to put the country on a long-term sustainable footing and comply with IMF commitments. But the people of Sri Lanka deserve and continue to demand in that process openness, transparency, and accountability from its leaders as the process of these reforms moves forward, especially on reducing corruption. Now, Sri Lanka must also ensure it does not repeat the past mistakes of being burdened by debt through loan upon loan, some loans to fund white elephant projects with very little economic return to its citizens. So how to avoid going back into those bad habits? And we, the United States, want to be a part of that brighter future, be part of that solution. We remain Sri Lanka's largest export market. And just a few months ago, the CEO of our Development Finance Corporation had come here to Sri Lanka, to Colombo, to announce an investment of $553 million in financing in the Western Container Terminal at the Port of Colombo, in partnership with the John Keels Group and the Adani Group. Now, this is DFC's second largest exposure in the entire Indo-Pacific, if you can believe it. Second largest. It's not Indonesia, it's not Vietnam, Sri Lanka. $500 million of critical injection of private sector financing this country needs that does not add to government debt, but instead catalyzes private sector for growth. The United States wants to enhance Sri Lanka's status on the world stage as the home of a vital transshipment hub essential to the flow of global trade and supply chains. Now, Sri Lanka, as you know, if you've seen the ocean right here, it's one of the most strategically located maritime nations in the Indian Ocean. More than 60,000 ships, including 2/3 of the world's seaborne crude oil, half the container ships, annually transit Sri Lanka's waters. Now, Sri Lanka recently joined a multinational coalition of naval vessels in the Red Sea, Gulf of Aden, and Arabian Sea from over a dozen countries to help safeguard the freedom of navigation and protect the busy sea lanes of commercial ship traffic from Houthi attacks. A few weeks ago, I dived 33 meters under the sea to visit the Godawaya, the oldest shipwreck in all of Asia at 2,200 years old. And guess where that is? It's in Sri Lanka, just outside of Hambantota Port. Marine archaeologists are right now studying the wreck to uncover its secrets. Where did it come from? Where was it going? Why did it sink? But just the existence of this shipwreck, Asia's oldest shipwreck here in Sri Lanka, speaks volumes to the maritime and shipping heritage of this country. Now, a few months ago, your renowned HBS professor, Boris Groysberg, was actually here too in Sri Lanka to lead master classes on entrepreneurship and leadership, inspiring the audiences here and challenging them to think beyond the immediate. So to conclude, to all of you, as you head back home, wherever home is, how will you go big, be bold, and be brave in each of your fields, in your communities, in your philanthropic work, in the way you mentor the generation after you, ensure that others also have opportunities to follow in your footsteps, and bring on diverse teams. Diversity is so important to the ideas that we bring. To think regionally, globally, and how you fit into this matrix and to make a difference. So no matter what your field or expertise, I hope that this week of ideas, bold ideas, exchange of ideas has really inspired you to seize these new opportunities and think about how you use those talents and your hard-earned degree at Harvard to make a difference. Thank you.